What's going on, family? What's going on, family? Dave Jones here. And as promised, today we about to dive into what we call the momentum builder. I said that I wanted to go live, and I'm gonna be doing a series of a lot of lives, and we'll find out challenges that's going to prepare us to go into this new year. We're going to start early. We got one quarter to get us prepared to actually be prepared to become a better version of ourselves. I have a target market that is specifically for men, I believe, but it's definitely generic to all people. And the thing that that we're going to do, and the problem that I believe that I solve, is targeting those who are gifted underachievers. Like, so if you're gifted and you are ambitious, like you want to build, you want to do, you got a grind, you got a passion, but you currently are in a place in your life that you're stuck. And let me get a little closer to you. And you're not necessarily producing a life that you want to produce, and you feel isolated, you feel alone, you feel the quiet pain of uncertainty on what you want to produce in life. You're second guessing your abilities, you're second guessing the things that you're good at, and you're stuck in this pondering phase of life. I am talking to you. If you know anybody like this, you might as well go ahead and already share this with them, because I am looking for people who are in a position that they know they got more, they know they can produce more, and they have the skills, but they haven't found the ability to just launch themselves or produce themselves, and for several reasons that we're going to discover over the course of the next few months. But today, I want to give you some momentum. If you are stuck, you're in one of four positions in your life, and I want to go over some things that actually get you rolling. And why am I doing this? I am a person that was highly productive, highly zealous and ambitious, and produced a lot of things for the first more than half of my life. And basically, I was so good, and I did a lot of things. I never focused on one thing. And so what happens is I end up basically losing out on the ability to master and grow to the level of abundance that I start seeing some of my counterparts. And so what I started doing is I started second guessing. I started second guessing my next big move. Well, the reality is there was no next big move. There was no next best move. What I found out is that I had to make a decision about what it is that I wanted to do, what I wanted to produce. And before I made a decision of what I wanted to produce, let me tell you where I know who I'm looking for. When I was down this level of being unclear, indecisive of what I wanted to produce, I developed some self-doubt. I developed some depressive thoughts. And when I use that word depressed, don't take that word too lightly. That's when we take a thought that's negative about ourselves and we self-assess, and then we ponder on that thing over and over, and we take our own ability to bring down our own thought process. So we're in a position now where I was in this valley where I didn't want to make the wrong decision, and I got to being basically idle. And that's what I want to get into. Some of you are idle. It's not about capability. And for me, I was a person that built 8-figure companies and was a millionaire when I hit 30. So, but even in spite of the capabilities, you can go into a season that you're basically on in a valley or in the low part of your upward trend. And so if you don't know how to get yourself out of that trend, then that's what we're going to do today. I want to show you where you are and what you need to do to move to the next level. So I know that was a pretty long intro, but for those who are going to watch this on a replay, that's what we're doing right now. So let me dive right in here. I'm going to look in this particular concept called the I am secrets. This is a framework that I put together as I looked at where I was, and then I decided, okay, God's given me the ability to see process. So I can document everything I see about what I'm doing or what I needed to do to get out of this valley and back into high performing. And so that's what I talked about. And so what we're going to do now in this first session today is give you momentum to get out of the position that you're in, some of the secrets that I learned in the process. So we're going to do 1 and 2 today just to save time. We're going to find out where you are and then who you are. So these are the things that you need to know by the time. That's my assignment, to make you feel that you've got some value out of this in this process. All right, so here we go. This here is what I call basically the 4 stages of everybody in life. And these 4 stages, you'll see the first part at the top here is where we are either idle. This is stuck. This is where you kind of in spectating mode, or you are actually being something, but being something by name. Say you're a realtor, or say you're something else, where you got a title, but you're not really effective, right? And then you got doing. Doing is a person that's out there grinding, is out there producing. And then once you do long enough, you'll jump to the stage of having, where you produce something, and you have evidence that show that you have been committed to a process. And then it circles back down to idle again. So I want to walk you through this process wherever you are. My target is a person that's stuck in idle or in spectating mode. And I'm going to tell you how to get out of this. So the first, what you'll see within this, the red is going to represent the lane that keeps us stuck. It's the red light. It keeps us from between idle and moving to actually becoming something. The green is what we're going to do when we're going to graduate to actually turn the volume up on our life and actually be where we need to be. All right, so here we go. Let's start this. So what happens when you're idle? The first thing that starts out is you're in discovery mode. And discovery mode is actually a good place because you're trying to identify what it is either within your insight or within your eyesight that you are attracted to, what's calling you, what grind do you want to produce, what business do you want to build. And so after you in discovery, the thing is, if you stay in discovery too long, it'll turn into spectate. And so now we're spectating everybody else doing what they're doing and how they're doing it and things of that nature. And what happens is if you stand spectating too long, that moves in comparison. So you'll look at what others are doing and then start to compare yourself to where they are. And if you stay in a comparison mode, the most obvious thing you will do is it turns into a little what you hear hate. This is where we start to criticize others. And we're criticizing what other people are doing. Have you found yourself actually criticizing people? If you're going through social media, or you're looking at people who are out there trying to produce, taking a risk in their business, doing things that maybe you aren't ready to do, we begin to be critical about what they're doing. Why? Because we're still in idle mode, and this is what's drawing us stuck. Next thing, you stay in this low mode too long and you don't make a decision, you slide into envy, right? And that envy eventually turns into self-sabotage. And this is the circle or the cycle that we're in if you're in a position called stuck, where you're not maneuvering, you just in these character traits is what you begin to master. And with these mastery, you'll master limitation or the lack of the ability to move. All right, so how do you get out of that? What you got to do is you got to graduate to this area of the green, where one, you got to reverse engineer. And reverse engineer may sound like a deep term, but essentially that means you got to look at your life and see what things that you've accomplished, what things that you know that you're good at, and what things you know you like or you dislike, what things you can tolerate, what things you can take. And once you identify that, you have to decide. You're going to have to make a decision about what you want to do. If you are uncertain about what you want to do in life, you have to just make an imperfect decision. I'm going to teach you about that another time. And then next, you have to graduate to the concept where you identify yourself as this particular individual. You have to identify as whatever you decided to become. And once you do that, you turn from idle or discovery mode and you turn into doing. Now you are, let me get back on here. Now you are a beer. I'm sorry, you be something. So now you're identified as this thing. And as you are being something, your goal is to graduate to becoming, right? You're becoming. So now if we look back at our chart here, what stops a person if you're a person by title, like you got a business name, right? Or you actually known as a realtor or a person that's I don't know, some digital entrepreneur or wherever it is that you are, you got a title, but there's really no execution. So you just simply, if you're in the red or you're stuck in title, it's basically you exist as that thing. But that existing as, in order to keep you standing there, you just basically start paying attention again to what it is that you're doing. But again, there's no actual work. Then that's going to slide into planning phase. All right, so now I got to make all these plans about what I need to do, how I need to do it. And I'm going to do this and I'm whiteboarding, I'm strategizing, I'm doing all these things about this thing, this business that I'm starting to do, but I'm not actually executing yet. I'm just planning the stage, which is a good phase. But if we stay here too long, we get into ponder. We ponder on the things that we plan. And then we begin to ponder too long. We begin to perfect the things that we plan. I'm sorry if you can't read this, but just follow what I'm saying. So we begin to perfect everything that we are pondering about. What moves I need to make, what I'm going to do next month. I'm going to write my vision. I'm going to write it 5 times. And so we keep perfecting it and perfecting it. And then you realize that you're inactive. There's no action. There's no motion. There's nothing actually progressing. So you have a name by title where you're identified as something that you're going to build or become, but there's no movement. So what do you do from getting from stuck? You have to slide over to the green where there's a position that you are looking for accountability. Accountability is where you simply have to put yourself in a position that you have to give an account for what you produce to someone else. If you're in a position, a lot of us have started business. I got to look at you for this. A lot of us have maybe started businesses. A lot of us have started businesses or said that we want to be something, but the difference between working for an employer, right, and then transitioning into your own grind or your own calling is nobody telling you what to do. There's no accountability. You don't have to give an account to somebody. But the moment you don't have to give an account to somebody, that's a gift and a crutch. Well, the gift is the potential freedom, but that turns into a crutch because why? Because sometimes we can tell ourselves, oh, I'm good. I don't have to do that because I don't have to present something to somebody. The reason that a lot of us go to work is because if we don't, then our employer will see that we're not executing, so therefore we'll get fired. So you protect that, so you give an accountability, right? And so that's the first thing you need to do. You got to voluntarily put yourself in a position of accountability. That's things like coaching. That's things like mentorship. That's things like friendship that you can let somebody check you about what you need to produce. Let's slide back up in here. Okay, so the next part to actually moving from being and getting out of stuck phase in name only is to move to imperfect action. A lot of us are stuck planning and debating because we don't want to execute. We're afraid about what the other people will say. We're thinking about their opinion, and their opinion causes literally a restriction in our behavior, a restriction in our going forward, and we won't move. And so imperfect action is the key. You have to come to a decision that it is okay to fall as I take this action. It is okay for this to potentially be criticized. It is okay, more importantly, for me not to know everything about the thing that I am building or producing. So when we make imperfect action, we're actually telling ourselves that if we fall, this is part of the process. So therefore, I need to take this journey, right? So sliding up. Practice. So you have to practice it. Practice is something that you do in repetition, over and over and over and over. That repetition is going to allow you to gain a level of mastery. And that level of mastery will gain some level of confidence. Confidence meaning you can confide in yourself to produce the thing, and therefore that you keep going. And then obviously you have to approach the same thing, frustration. Frustration is where the growth is. I am looking for the frustration. I am looking for the resistance. I am looking for the thing that challenges my brain to make me go study. The moment we stop looking for that frustration, the muscles stop growing, right? And then lastly, we maintain this concept of discipline through accountability and things of that nature. And that discipline is the things that graduate to the next level, which is you become a doer. Right. So now that you actually doing something. Now, this is less likely what people who are doing and they find themselves stuck. But when you're doing only, sometimes you're not actually having the things that you want to have. So you can be in a stage of stuck, but you're in a much better position if you're one operating. I'll show you. So what causes a person to just be steadily doing the work, but they don't have the things that they desire is fatigue. This in the red. When you start to say and start to admit or start to profess that you are in fatigue or you tired of doing this, then you immediately stop the process of progression, right? And so what happens is you also stay in a season of impatience where I don't want to wait anymore for the things I want to have. I want to travel, or I want to buy the car, or I want to have the house. And so if our focus is on the things that we don't have, we lose the patience, and that impatience on the thing that we've decided to execute on becomes resentment. We start to resent the thing that we're working on. And if we're resenting the thing that we're doing, that we've decided to become, if we stay in that lane and that mindset, that depressive thought of, I don't want to do this, that causes us to be attracted to some other opportunity. And when you're attracted to another opportunity, what you do is you give up on all the progressional success that you've had. in this journey to turn you up to having the things you want. So when you have to get out of these red zones, you have to get out of fatigue, you have to get out of or go through the fatigue, and you have to get out of the impatience, you have to get out of the concept of resentment, and you have to turn it up to the green area here when you have the mindset or the characteristic of commitment. And to break that word commitment down, there's two words. It's where you with mission. So you have a mission, whatever that mission is, the problem you want to solve for people, what you want to produce out of this life, what you want to gain in your legacy, you have to hold attached to some mission of production. And that mission is the thing that becomes the most important thing in your life, not the fatigue, not the impatience. Right. And so when I have a mission, I can keep walking toward the thing. It's kind of like the concept of Christ. He had a mission to produce, regardless of the frustration that he had to go through. All right. So now consistent is where you insist on this happen. You are always like, this is going to happen. I'm convinced nothing's going to stop me. And that commitment and that consistency turns to your influence. And now when you start to get influence, you start to attract people and you can start the ability to lead others. A person of influence have the special superpower of being able to tell people things that they can do to benefit in this process of whatever I'm producing. And so people will begin to believe us because they can see some of their future inside of what we're doing because we have a history of executing. And people jump on moving trains. So what we were once doing by ourselves before, we're no longer having to do by ourselves. So our commitment to doing the work draws people to us. And now we have more synergy. We have other people's energy, other people's hands, other people's brains and ideas to help us build the thing that we are building. And so that influence really turns in what you call productivity. And that productivity, because we're producing, we're starting to see results, we automatically create habit. Why? Because the only way that, and that's this last portion here, I don't know if you can see my chart, we're sliding from doing all the way to having the things, right? So if I'm having something, if I'm in a position that I'm producing, if I'm in a position that I have habit, I need you to look at me when I see this word. If I have the habit because I am producing things, I am seeing progressional success, I have people around me that's creating the synergy, now it becomes a habit that I'm doing this. And the root word in habit is habitat. That means a place of rest. So when you're grinding, don't ever stop grinding because your grinding will eventually turn from frustration to habit, where you become comfortable in your work. There are people that if you look at them, they'll get up and go run 5 miles a day. And you're like, how in the world do you stay disciplined to produce that? Well, they're not disciplined. The discipline is a position that I'm in study mode and I'm in learning mode and I'm sacrificing. But God didn't make us to be disciplined. You were not made to be disciplined. You were made to use discipline to create a habit. So when I have a habit or it is rest to me, it is comfortable to me to do this grind, to do this work, to build my business or to build whatever it is that's calling you to produce. So you're working to get to habitual nature, right? And once you're in that habitual nature, let me slide back to my chart here. Once you're in habitual nature, that graduates you to having. Now you can have, you are producing things on a much higher level. Now, let me get over here. Okay, so now some of us who have something, this is a smaller group where you stuck and you're in a position that you produce something and you have something, but I still got to talk to you, right? So if you're stuck there, that means that you're dissatisfied with all the production. I do have clients, multi-million-dollar clients that actually, I teach in or I coach in several areas: your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, your frame of mind, your focus, and fun. But frame of mind is basically where a person can be, even if it looks like they have everything and everything is going on in their frame of mind, they bake some depressive or some negative thoughts about their situation. Or even though they have everything, they focus on or they magnify the area of their life that is wrong. Maybe their relationship is going through, hey, but you got a business, you got this, you got that. Well, that focus on the thing that's wrong in your life, we are made to problem solve. So therefore we're magnifying that thing, and that magnifying of that thing makes us disqualified. And if you look at the chart here, you're dissatisfied with everything that you produce. And that dissatisfaction turns into unfulfillment. Even though from the outside it looks like much, you're unfulfilled about where you are in life. And so now you're stuck in this mode when it looks like you have everything. Well, how do you graduate from that? You got to operate in these character concepts: gratitude, gratefulness. You have to figure out and look at what you have, not take it for granted, and say, hey, because I have this, I'm actually walking in the productivity of the work that I put in. And we were made to create stuff and make stuff. That's really the only reason that we're here on the earth. If you can find that you've created something and you've made something, you have to go find fulfillment there. If that's not enough, you have to maybe potentially, it's time to expand that vision. Grow that thing that you've built to a much larger level. Set a different goal that'll give you another destination that of problems you can solve, and therefore find a fulfillment in yourself. And then lastly, if you've already done that, it's time to reimagine. And when we reimagine, I'm sorry, I went wrong. Right. It's time to reimagine. And in reimagining, now that gets me back to the position that I graduate to. It's not necessarily idle in this point, but it's discovery mode. What is the next thing that I can produce in life? And once we get our mind back on recreating and making things, then we're ready to roll. I followed this, Dr. Myron Goldman, and one of the things he says, we were created in the image of God. And the first things God showed us in creation was, number one, that he was a creator. And then everything that he created with his words, he ended up forming with his hands. And so if we're made in his image, these are two things we are to do. We were created to create stuff and made to make stuff. And that's ultimately fulfillment. It ain't necessarily relationships. It ain't necessarily certain things that we buy in life. Our purpose for being here was to be creators and makers. Everything else are bonuses or ad libs to have us fulfilled in this life. All right. So there we have it. So now we know where you are. If you're stuck, let me go back here. If you're stuck in this area where you're in discovery mode or you're idle and you're spectating, this is kind of the worst painful place, right? But it's okay because we can get you out of this place. And I'm going to talk about that if we adjust ourselves right here. So I'm going to target you later, but let's keep going. Who I am. All right. So now this is really, really deep. So put your notepads out. So you can see this. This here is I'm going to take you from a portion of the framework or the course that is being built to where it's going to show you. The first part about it is self-identity, right? The most important words that you will ever say in life is I, because I is actually who you are. It is the beginning of the what you're going to discuss or mention about yourself. I'll go into that later. So what you need to understand when you talk about who you are, who am I? I am automatically creating. The I in me is automatically creating. And the I is the conscious mind. The I is the spirit. So let me give you some visuals. I just think of the spiritual, intangible, non-physical part of you, right? So that person, that I is consciousness. That is your conscious mind. So we call it spirit, we call it conscious mind, but it's ultimately who you are. We are not this physical body. If I cut this arm off, I'm still here. If I cut both arms off, I'm still here. Both legs off, I'm still here. So we are not this body. We are the intangible thought process that's causing us to even communicate right now and you to hear what I'm saying, right? That that spiritual or that thought process is now housed in the brain, right? In that brain area. And that's what you call the subconscious mind. And so now our subconscious mind is also known as the soul or the program, right? Or the heart. These are the thoughts that we've incubated long enough and often enough, and it bakes inside of our brain. And now it's your intelligence, it's your memory, it's your reference. That brain obviously is inside of our physical body, and that is what you call the unconscious mind. The body is the mind that is unconscious. This is the thing or the mind that's working. Your body heart beats, the artery flows, the oxygen flies, the endocrine system works, right? The respiratory circular system works. All these things in our body work on a brain that we are unconscious about. It's our mechanism, but we are unconscious of its activity. So our consciousness is what we intend to think about. That's our spirit. Our subconscious is what we remember and what we baked into our intelligence, right? And then our unconscious is the thing that our body is producing. So now this is very deep stuff right here. This is the basis of everything I do. Your I plus your am equals what you are having. So I, who I am, which is currently manifesting as, or the world calls vibration, the vibration I'm on. Whatever I am is what I'm having. See if we can make this make sense. So knowing your I am, right? So the reason why it's so important when we talked about being idle is you have to know your I am. Well, what is your I am? Your I am basically is basically what are you saying to yourself in your quiet times, in your private times? What are you saying to yourself? Right? Whatever you have been saying to yourself is what you are. There's a quote or a saying that says, "You are you are not your thoughts." Actually, this is something I made up. Sorry, you are not your thoughts, but you are producing whatever you choose to think about. So that means we could take any thought and make it our own. And if we bake it into ourselves, that is our am. So I am, right? Whatever I am thinking about. So when you speak to yourself, you got to ask, what are you saying when you assess who you are? I am what? You have to know yourself. Well, the way to do that is well, who am I? So let me tell you who you are, right? This is what I call the self audit. I am what? What do you say after I am? Throughout your day. Whatever you confess after I am will be who you are. I am tired. Okay, that's a confession. I am broke. I am sick. I am in a bad place in life. I am not good at anything. Right? I am. What is the thing that you say to yourself all the time, in your private times, in your head? What are you saying to yourself? Whatever you are saying to yourself is a self declaration of who you are. This is you existing as whatever you say. And most times we assess our day, we assess what happened and our lack of productivity, especially if we're an idle, and we begin to profess who we are. And that life or that thought process begins to restrict us from making a move or graduating to the next level. So what I'm saying to you is the exact reason that you may be stuck because you've been confessing your place in life. You've been speaking your reality and therefore defining who you are going forward. So I want you to do it. Take a few moments right now, and I'm gonna pause the thing for 10 seconds. You can pause this because it's recorded. And I want you to write down what you've been saying to yourself after I am. What have you been defining yourself as? And once you do that, you'll realize why you're stuck where you are. Is because this is what you identify as, again, not a negative word, where you depress yourself. You take negative thoughts about what you assess about yourself, your weakness at the current moment, and then we begin to confess that to ourselves and we begin to rotate that same thought over and over and over. So we depress ourselves. So this is different from oppression when somebody else stops us from becoming. Depression is where we stop ourselves from becoming, from assessing some things that we might have done wrong. So we are baking our behavior. We are defining who we are. We are the reason that we're stuck. So our assignment becomes, how do we change it? So I want you to write it down, and I want you to look at it for your own sake, because we're going to stop saying these words. All right. So I plus am equals, so we got conscious awareness, you're existing as, and it's whatever your current truth is, right? That's what you're having. So we got to figure out what this is. I got a quote from Tony Robbins that says, the strongest force in human personality is the need, I like to say, creative power, to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. So basically, this basically what the scripture is saying: life and death is in the power of your tongue. You can have what you say, right? That's all this really is saying. Like whatever you are saying, if you've been saying the wrong stuff about yourself, you have to figure out how to change that conversation. And this is the first thing that I'm gonna give you, and to get you some momentum so that you can get unstuck. Right? So here we go. I am equals what? So last thing I'm gonna give you, then I'll jump into to closing out this. It's called the R3 changeup. So it's the two practices here. In the R3 changeup is something I do is where you recognize what you've been saying, renew what you've been saying, get a different thought, and then you redo it. So you have to restate it. So if you say, I am sick of this, you have to catch that verse that's coming out your mouth, and then you have to say, I am enjoying this, or I am, or I like, here's an example. I a lot of us, we say, man, I got to do something, right? I got to wash the dishes, or I got to go pick up the kids. I actually heard this from Steve Harvey. He said, you got to change that word from got to get. I get to go pick up the kids, right? I get to do the dishes. I have a home, thank God, right? And so it's the power in the way you define whatever it is that's going on. So when you say something negative, I am sick and tired of this, or I can't stand her, or I can't do this, like you have to catch yourself in those comments and begin to adjust it. So you have to recognize when you speak death to yourself, you have to get a new thought, and then you have to make a restatement. And this is you're going to have to practice so you can become better at this process. All right, so I think that's it. So now I want to slide over into something that's how I can actually take you. For those of you who want to go further, I think a lot of you, if you listen clearly to some of the stuff that's been said, you would have found a way for you to get some momentum and to get unstuck. If you go back and look at the beginning of this, we told you how to graduate. Now I want to talk specifically from the person. Let me give you a visual who is actually in idle mode. If you're in stuck mode to the point that you don't know who you are, I can empathize with you in this. And I want to show you the visual again so we're on the same page. If you're this person that's in idle and you simply have just been pondering, you're in discovery mode, you've been spectating, you've been criticizing, and you don't know who you are, right? That means there's a self-identity issue. You haven't defined who you want to become. And a lot of us, you ask, man, what if you didn't have to go to work for anybody? And what if money wasn't your problem? Or if there's a problem that you can solve in life, like what would you do? And if you're in a position that you like, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know what I want to become. I don't know what I want to grind at. I don't know what I want to work on. That means there is no self-identity. So if there's no self-identity, you cannot move to the becoming stage. And so basically you're stuck in indecision. And again, I am very familiar with this place. Having been a person that done several things, it came a point in my life where I was just particularly indecisive on my next move. But either way it goes, when you're indecisive of what you want to do, it's impossible for you to move anywhere. You could be busy, but you are not progressing at all because you don't have a destination. And so some of us, it's really difficult to actually pick something. And so this is where I want to offer you another opportunity so you can get rolling in this progress of becoming and doing and having this better version of yourself that you know that's in there. I'm doing something actually starting Monday. I don't know when you're watching this, but this next one is starting Monday. You'll get the information if you move forward. But it's called the Self-Identity Challenge. And in this Self-Identity Challenge, our goal is to figure out how to help you gain an understanding of who you are and what you want to become. And also just make an imperfect decision. So sometimes we need somebody to kind of hear us and talk through the process of what we're going through and what are the things that we're considering and help us gain clarity on what we want to do in life. So it's a challenge to force you in a position that you pick something that you want to do. And we're going to take you through a framework to ask you the right questions, to make you answer yourself for your questions and pick the best, where we actually identify basically where you can start moving. We're going to make an imperfect decision, and therefore you can start to self-identify. And then we're going to graduate in the same thing, show you how to get focused on that and how to stay focused on it, how to be committed to the thing that you decided. Because there's times where you decided things in the past and then you started and then you change your mind. Why? I did that. So we're going to get you in a position that you figure out how to stay focused. What do I need to do to stay focused on this thing long enough and often enough till it becomes the habit that we talked about earlier? And then lastly, we're going to help you build good habits. Basically, how do I produce the habits? How do I take my body and make my body stay committed to the practice, committed to the regimen? And so this, we call it a 3-day challenge, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The information, if you connect, the information is always going to be in whatever it is that we put out. But it's 3-day challenge that gives you an opportunity to get off stuck. Basically, it's interesting. I didn't even put any. I'm gonna figure out how to put the links in the descriptions that you can make decisions. There's 2 ways you can get on. The first way, we call it our general challenge, to where you get on and you're listening to the training, you following our framework and the course material, and then basically you'll be able to produce and have the thing you want to actually know who you are. and it's something that you're confident in that you can roll with. Then we have a deep dive for some of us who actually need more communication. So the first one is like $97. The next one is $297, where you're communicating with us, where we get into it's like we're going to have an additional 3 hour a day for 3 days where we actually going to deep dive into your questions, let you bounce your ideas off. So this will be a smaller group. You're going to bounce your ideas off. You get to ask questions. I get to answer questions, give you my feedback based upon my experience, then the clients that we work with to help guide you into that decision that you're more comfortable with. And so that's the only difference. If you don't need that interaction, just join in, because we're going to challenge you to become the best version of you. How do you get to producing? How do you get this momentum to go? And you want to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further. All right. So I think that's all I have for now. I'm sorry. I see some of you may be commenting at the end of this. I am actually not within the platforms that I'm streaming to, so I really can't see who's doing something. Let me see if I can jump onto something to see if I can see what's going on. But bottom line is, I'm gonna put into the links, if you make it this far into this video, the opportunity for you to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going an hour a day. We're going to start in the afternoon. Sorry if you can't be there live with us, or you can watch the replay. I'll be doing more because, again, I told you that I'm going to build everything we need to do going all the way into this new year, that we're not starting with fake New Year's resolutions. We're going to take these next 3 months, this last quarter of this year, and we're going to already be rolling. We're going to be already rolling. And so, again, I'm going to put the links in there. I'm trying to look at myself online. Okay, so I don't see anybody actually rocking with me. So I'm going to put these in the description. Just wait for it as I get off, and then you can make a decision and join in and jump in. Hope this was good for you. Go back and rewatch this, pull your pen out, answer the questions, send it to somebody who you think may need it. But I'm going to be here for a while, so we're going to keep making this happen. I think I'm going to do another one of these Sunday, sometime in the afternoon as well. So again, I am looking for gifted underachievers who are stuck. You know you can produce more. You know that there's more in you, but you are in a position of idle and you don't know who you are. You haven't made a decision of what you wanted to become. And that lack of decision making is causing you to criticize other people. And in turn, it's causing an inward pain because there's a comparison. And then you're looking at your life go on, and you not moving, you not being fulfilled as we watch everybody else execute and take the risk and walk into the grind. So if you're gifted and you're ambitious, but you are currently underachieving, I am talking to you. You are the perfect person that I want to connect to. You are the person that I want to help, and I want to get you out of stuck. Why? Because I was that person. And since I know who you are, it makes us an opportunity for me to help you get to where you're going. And this is what I do all the time. All right. Love you guys, and look forward to your feedback, and see you on the inside next week. All right. Here we go.